Australia is one of around 60 countries asked by US President Donald Trump to join his so-called Board of Peace to oversee the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire. Global Affairs Editor Laura Tingle joins us now. Laura, g'day. So what is this Board of Peace, and should Australia be entertaining the thought of getting involved in it?
Joe, this came out of the whole peace process in Gaza, but I think everybody's a little bit perplexed around the world. Not all the details have emerged. Bloomberg has reported some of the structure of this, but there's this complex multi-level structure, which is like a corporate structure, with the Board of Peace at the top, which Donald Trump would have basically a veto power over. And from the terms of it, it looks like it's not just about Gaza. Somebody has described it as potentially an alternative United Nations, which if you want to become a permanent member of, each country's got to pay $1 billion after the first 3 years. So the exact purpose of it is very unclear. Does Australia want to be involved? I suspect the answer would probably be no, but of course we continue to, be very polite around the President's proposals and don't actually just say, oh, we haven't actually read the letter yet. But there's quite a lot of scepticism, not just about the board, but about the underlying organisations which would be running Gaza as well.
Would there be obvious dangers about getting involved in something like that for a nation?
Well, I think there would be, just partly because there is this very ambiguous agenda for it, and because, once again, basically the President of the United States is giving himself veto powers over any of it. So what you would gain from it at this point is very unclear.
The Greenland issue is intensifying. Does it appear that Europe is emerging as more of an enemy for Donald Trump than Russia is?
I don't think it's emerging as more of an enemy, but I think without a doubt Donald Trump has just pushed the Europeans too far this time. I mean, they've basically been very very nice to Donald Trump. They had arranged a deal where they were going to cop tariffs on their goods, but the United States would not face any tariffs going to Europe. That was that famous meeting in Scotland last year. Now they've basically said that the European Parliament is unlikely to ratify that treaty, and they're talking about much bigger trade sanctions on the United States. I think it's a real turning point in this regard, because they've been terrified about what would happen if Donald Trump escalated either via direct invasion of Greenland or potentially from walking away from NATO. But I think they've now sort of said, well, it's not worked for us trying to be nice. We've got to actually stand up. And, the diplomatic community around Brussels is making observations about the fact that Brazil and China stood up to Donald Trump and did better out of it. You've now got things happening like Canada doing a deal with China. So I think the world has sort of just got to that point of just going, thus far and no further with Donald Trump.
Yeah, so what does the year ahead look like from a global international relations perspective, considering what's happened even just over the last 3 months?
Over the last 3 days, really. I mean, it's just become this very perilous spinning wheel of, what's Donald Trump going to say on some other platform, this 24-hour cycle. I think that makes it very hazardous, but without a doubt, there is a real risk, I think, that just given the erratic nature of the way he's been behaving towards Europe, there is a really good chance that he would try to further escalate the complaint and say, well, OK, well, I'll walk away from NATO. Now, nobody would like that better than Vladimir Putin. It does leave Europe exposed, but I think they're coming to the realisation that NATO is effectively dead anyway, given his rhetoric. So that's going to have implications for the war in Ukraine, but also the war also for what happens to Europe. You've got people in Europe, like central bankers, saying, we've got to actually understand that we are already at war with Russia. So it's a very frightening time across several continents.
Yeah.